So very good morning. So presently we have in class Gautam Godra, Kartikeyan Sharma, Pushpendra Pal Singh, Rakesh Raika, Rohan Pingle and Sandeep Singh Bhati. So let me start with the class now. So yesterday I did about conditions and warranties, and along with that we have also seen that how the what is one of the thing which is called the doctrine of caveat emptor. Along with the implied warranties, we have seen the caveat emptor. So caveat emptor was pending since yesterday. So we will be taking it further. So caveat emptor is actually you can say one doctrine, or you can say one law, which actually says that the buyer has to beware. Okay, so buyers beware is a formula for this caveat emptor as such. So it means that uh, so following are the conditions are which are to be fulfilled. So caveat emptor means the buyer who is purchasing the goods has to be aware about what the goods he is purchasing, and nobody else will be responsible if the buyer himself with his due diligence has taken the goods or you can say he has purchased the goods. So but following are the conditions to be satisfied, that the doctrine of if the buyer has made his or to known to the seller the purpose of his purchase, and the buyer has relied on the seller's skills and uh, the seller's business to supply the goods, sellers having the business to supply the same goods of the description, so then this the caveat emptor may not be applicable. So A sold pigs to B, these pigs were infected because typhoid to the other healthy pigs of the buyer, they actually caused typhoid. So it was held that the seller was not bound to disclose that the pigs were unhealthy. So rule is the caveat emptor. The law of caveat emptor said that the purchaser should be aware about it. Okay. So A purchased another case. If you see, A purchased a horse from B. A needed the horse for riding, but it did not mention this fact. So the horse is not suitable for riding, but it is suitable only for being driving in the carriage. But you cannot sit on the horse and ride it. So you need a strong horse for that. But this was not at all mentioned by A. So this caveat emptor rules applies over here, and A can neither reject the contract nor he can claim compensation because he has actually taken the horse by his own conscience. Okay, so but there are certain exception to this rule that when the caveat emptor does not apply. So first is a fitness as to quality to use. So where the buyer makes known to the seller the particular purpose for which the goods are required, so as to show that he relies the seller's skill and judgment, and the goods are of description which is in course of the seller's business to supply. It is a duty of seller to supply such goods which are reasonably fit for that purpose. So if the seller is supplying such goods which are reasonably fit for the purpose and is also telling the buyer that you purchase it off, so in that case that this doctrine of caveat emptor will not be applicable. Now the responsibility will of the seller only and not of the buyer, because buyer has already told his purpose and seller is selling the goods of those those specifications. So an order was placed for the trucks to be used for the heavy traffic in the hilly country. The truck supplied by the seller was unfit for this purpose and broke down. Now this is a breach of condition of the fitness because the buyer has told his purpose and he totally relied upon the seller for the that he should supply the proper goods which actually fits. So there is a leading case of a priest versus last. So P, a draper, purchased a hot water bottle from the retail chemist. So P asked the chemist if it would stand a boiling water. So the chemist told it will not stand a boiling water, but it is for the purpose of you can say for healing the wounds, or you can keep it at the for what the hot water is actually taken for. Okay, so the bottle burst when the water was poured into it and injured his wife. It was held that the chemist shall be liable to pay the damages because he knew that the bottle is purchased for the purpose of using it as a hot water bottle, or you can say for doing you can say for curing purpose. It is to be used on the outside the human body for purpose of giving the heat. Okay, but in this case also, you know, the article was used actually for what was the purpose, and he knew the purpose. So the doctrine of caveat emptor is applicable over here, where the article has been used only for one particular purpose. The buyer need not tell the seller the purpose for which he required the goods. But where the article can be used for a number of purposes, the buyer should tell the seller that what is for what purpose he is actually going to use that particular product. Okay, and he totally relies upon, and then it is given, then you know, then it is this caveat emptor will not be applicable, and the seller will be held responsible. So one more case in Bombay Burma Trading Company Limited versus Aga Muhammad. The timber was purchased for the express purpose of using it as a railway sleepers, but when it was used as a railway sleepers, it broke down. So the purpose was mentioned well in advance to the timber merchant, but he gave such a goods which was inferior in quality and actually broken down when it was used for the purpose for which it was taken. Okay, so here also the doctrine of caveat emptor is not applicable, and that particular person will be held responsible who has sold the goods. Further, the goods purchased under the patent or a brand name. If the goods are purchased under the patent or a brand name, there is no implied condition, because a person has asked for that particular brand, and he knows what the brand actually does, and to the extent of the fitness of the brand, he has actually asked for it. So in that case, for any branded goods also, the doctrine of caveat emptor does not apply, because it's not the seller who is actually responsible for it. It may be the manufacturer who may be responsible for the manufacturing defect in the goods. If it is so, then it will be a breach of condition. Okay, so not a breach of warranty or caveat emptor will not be applicable in that case, because it is a branded goods. Okay, and the work which a branded goods do, already branding is there in the market, so everyone knows the purpose for which it can be used. Okay, so next is your goods by description. Where the goods are sold by description, there is an implied condition that goods should match or correspond with the description. If it is not, then seller is responsible, because he is selling the goods by description only. So here the buyer cannot be, you cannot say buyer beware over here. Okay, next is the goods of merchantable quality. So accordingly, the goods must be merchantable, or you can say it should be sellable in the open market, where the goods are bought by the description from the seller who deals in the goods of that description. There is an implied condition that goods shall be of merchantable quality, or wholesomeness should be there. So the rule of caveat emptor is not applicable, that the person should have seen the goods and accordingly have taken it. But where the buyer has examined the goods, so the rule shall apply if the defects were such that which ought to have been revealed by ordinary examination. Even if the buyer has examined the goods and there are some latent defects means the buyer is not at all able to see those things, then also this doctrine of caveat emptor will not be applicable, because he cannot see the goods by the, you know, just by viewing it or by observing it. So next is sale by sample. Again, if it is sale by sample, then it should resemble the sample. So the doctrine of caveat emptor does not apply in the sample. If the goods are sold by sample and description, so it should match both sample and description, and the caveat emptor will not be applicable. Okay, so there are certain things which are, you know, implied. If you see, these all are the parts of the implied condition. Okay, as to title, as to sample description, merchantable, wholesomeness, these all things are there in the implied conditions. And there, when the implied conditions are there, the caveat emptor is the not applicable, or you can say these are the exceptions of the caveat emptor. Further is the trade usage. So an implied warranty or a condition as to quality or the fitness of a particular purpose may be annexed by usage of trade, or the things are in daily tradable use. In that case also, you can say, because it is in daily trade use, this is this doctrine of caveat emptor is not applicable, because everyone knows the quality and fitness of the things which is daily and daily in use. Okay, so for example, in the ready-made garment business, there is an implied condition by usage of trade that the garment shall be reasonably fit to be, wear on. Okay. Next is seller actively conceals any defect. If the seller has concealed any defect, in that case, what will happen? That is again an exception of, you can say, caveat emptor. Here also the buyer will not be responsible. The seller himself will be responsible because he has concealed certain facts which otherwise should be disclosed, or he is guilty of the fraud. Then also the seller will be responsible, not the buyer in any case. Next is your transfer of property. So transfer of property means the transfer of ownership. You can say transfer of property and the delivery of the goods. So we will talk about the transfer of property today. So the sale of goods involves the transfer of ownership of the property from the seller to buyer. It is essential to determine the time at which the ownership passes from seller to buyer. So the contract of sale of goods involves the transfer of ownership in 3 stages: passing of property, delivery of goods, and then passing of vessel. Okay. So first of all, the time of transfer. So important of the transfer, time of transfer. The general rule is that the risk prima facie passes with the property. In case where the goods are lost or damaged, the burden of proof will be borne by the person who is the owner at the time of the when the goods are lost or damaged. Where the goods are damaged by the act of the third party, it is the owner who can take action. The suit for the price by the seller lies only when the property has passed to the buyer. So when the property will pass, the time of passing of property is very, very important. When the and as soon as as soon as the property has been passed, so everything is at the person who is the buyer of the property and not the seller. So if the property transfer of property has not gone with, you can say the risk will not. So risk actually is combined with the transfer of the property. Okay. Next is passing or transfer of property constitutes the most important element and the factor to decide the legal rights and liabilities of the sellers and the buyer. So passing of the property implies passing of the ownership. So if the property has passed to the buyer, the risk of the goods is that of the buyer and not of the seller, though the goods may still be in the seller's position. So once you have purchased the goods and the goods are in the seller's position, and if something happens over there, so it is not the seller who will be responsible. It is the buyer who will be responsible, because there the property has been passed from the buyer to the seller. Seller to the buyer. If the property has been passed, so every liability, everything is of the buyer only. So the primary rules to determining the passing of the property from seller to buyer are as follows. There has to be specific or ascertain goods. So passing of ascertain goods will be there. It has to be there. Goods sent on approval and sale. So these are the heads in which we will be studying that in under certain circumstances, what are the provisions of the sale of goods regarding passing of the property. So first is a property passes when intended to pass it. That is, the goods are specific and ascertain. So where there is a contract of sale of specific or ascertain goods, the property in them is transferred to the buyer at such time as the parties to the contract intend it to be transferred. Okay. So for the purpose of ascertaining the intention of the parties, the regard shall be had to the terms of the contract, the conduct of the parties, and the circumstances of the case. Total, these all things in total will determine that how the property will be passing. Next is, unless a different intention appears, the rules contained in the section 20-24 are the rules for ascertaining the intention of the party as to the time at which the property of the goods is to pass to the buyer. So it totally depends on the intention, the circumstances, okay, and the conduct of the parties. So first is the specific goods in a deliverable state. So where there is an unconditional contract for sale of specific goods in a deliverable state, the property in the goods to the buyer when the contract passes to the buyer when the contract is made. And it is immaterial whether the time of payment of the price or the time of delivery of the goods or the both is postponed. So no matter. But at the time when it has happened, then the property will be passed. So there can be so when the things are in deliverable state, for example, you want to buy a mobile, so it will be in the deliverable state. Or just now, this is an example of a television. So X goes to the shop and buys the television and asks the shopkeeper for its home delivery. The shopkeeper agrees to do it, and television immediately become the property of X, who is the buyer. But on the way, what happened? There was an accident, and the TV actually got crushed. So now who will be responsible at that time? Obviously, the buyer will be responsible. May the auto wala may be the person who is actually from the seller. So such type of dispute happen. So what is there? What is the intention of the parties? The intention of the parties at the time of transfer of property is that the property be transferred immediately because the person has made the payment. Then the TV is sold to the buyer, that is X, who has purchased the TV, and he is now taking it immediately to the home. Okay. Next is specific goods to be put into a deliverable state further. This is a section 21. So first is specific goods is already in a deliverable state, but second is when the specific goods is to be put in a deliverable state. So there is a difference. So where there is a contract for the sale of specific goods and the seller is bound to do something to the goods for the purpose of putting them into a deliverable state, the property does not pass until the goods has been, you know, in the has come in the deliverable state. Okay, so it will not pass until such thing is done and the buyer has a notice thereof. This is again important. Buyer must be notified that the goods are now in the deliverable state. Okay, so for example, you go to purchase a car. So there are various cars lying in the you can say in the go down or the garage of the car dealer. Okay, and you have an intention to purchase the car and you have asked for the car as such. And now what has happened, because it has been there are number of cars, so cars has to be ascertained, you have ascertained. Now the person has to, put it in the deliverable state, means he may has to wash it or clean it or whatsoever things are to be done, because there may be dust on it. So he will bring it in the deliverable state and then only the delivery will happen, and accordingly he will inform the buyer that now the things are in the deliverable state, you come and take the delivery as such. Okay, so in that case only the delivery will happen. Okay. Next is the specific goods in the deliverable state when the seller has to do anything thereto in order to ascertain the price of the goods. So they are in the deliverable state, but still price had not yet been determined. Okay. So where there is a contract of the sale of specific goods in a deliverable state, but the seller is bound to wait, measure, test, or do some other act, to or thing with reference to the goods for the purpose of ascertaining the price, because the price has not yet been ascertained. So he may ask the market, or he may whatever he has to do, he has to do. Okay, so until and unless this price of the property is fixed or it is determined, it will again not be called in a deliverable state. Okay, so for example, A sold carpets to the company which were required to be laid. Okay, so carpet was delivered to the company's premises, but was stolen before it could be laid. Okay, so it was held that the carpet was not in a deliverable state and it was not laid. So carpet, there was a contract that the carpet will be laid and then only the money will be, given. So from the premises of the company itself, where the carpet was to be laid down, or where the carpets were to be pasted on the floor, it was stolen. So whose responsibility it is? The risk has not yet been transferred because it has not come in the deliverable state, because the contract was to laid down the carpet in the company's office. So it has not yet come in the deliverable state. So that therefore it will not be treated as if the contract has happened or the risk has not yet been passed. Okay. So any question regarding the deliverable state, or you can say up till here, the passing of property of the specific goods? Any question, anyone? Anything you would like to
No,
ask?
sir.
So when the goods are sent on the approval or sale or return basis. So this is also what is can anyone explain what is how the goods are treated when they are sold on the sale or approval basis? Anyone from you? Would you like to put some throw some light on it? Come on. What do you mean by sale or return basis? You have listened these phrases before, and you have done some accounting treatment also of the goods on sale or return basis. What actually is goods on sale or return basis? Come on. Anyone from you? Yes?
Sir, I guess
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Come on, very good.
Maybe it's like when the owner buys that product or a good actually good.
Uh-huh.
So after like he's satisfied and all, or else his wish, he puts it on sale, or
Hmm.
else he returns back to uh, the delivery place he takes.
Yeah, of course. You're very correct. That sale or return basis means if I will if I will like the goods and the goods are fitting me, I will keep it, or otherwise I will return it. Okay. So that is called sale or return basis, or on approval basis. Okay, both are similar, one and the same thing. Okay. So when he signifies his approval to the buyer or acceptance to the seller or does any act adopting the transaction. So when approval is given, then only it will be called as a sale. Otherwise, even if the property is with the buyer, he has not bought it. The property is with the buyer, but he has not yet bought it. So as the transfer of property has not yet happened because the buyer has not given the approval, the risk will be of the seller. For example, I went to just to have a test drive of suppose Mercedes Benz or BMW, and while doing the test drive, the car was accidented. So whose responsibility it will be? It will be the responsibility of the seller, not the buyer, because I have not yet given any consent to just buy the goods. It was only on the approval basis, and before that only it met an accident. Okay. Next is if he does not signify his approval or acceptance to the seller but retain the goods without giving the notice of rejection, then if the time has been fixed for the return of the goods on the expiry of such time, and if no time has been fixed on the expiry of the reasonable time. Okay, so the person who was to give the approval has not given the approval. So in that case, what will happen? Suppose, for example, the contract was to return it on after 2 days, or otherwise it will be treated as if it has been sold to that person, or the person has bought it. So after 2 days, even if he has not given any consent or anything, so it will be deemed as if he has purchased it. Okay, so the transfer of property will happen and he will be responsible to pay the price of the goods, and risk will also be transferred at the same time. But if the no time has been there, so there will be a reasonable time which can afterwards be determined by the court, that what is the reasonable time within which he should return it. Or even these days buyers can ask for returning of the goods to the sorry, seller can ask the return of the goods to the buyer. If he wants to keep it, otherwise please return it immediately, something like that happens. Okay. Next is he does something to the good which is equivalent to accepting the goods. That is, he pledges the good, or the other person has sold the goods to someone else. So that will actually be, it will be treated as if he has taken the goods. Further, now there are examples. For example, P bought a musical instrument from a musical shop on a condition that he will purchase it. If he likes that instrument, yeah. If he will purchase it, only if he will likes the instrument. After a week, he has informed the shop owner that he has agreed to purchase the musical instrument. The ownership is transferred, and when he has decided to purchase the instrument as his own. So buyer under the contract of the on the basis of return or sale or return is deemed to have exercised his option when he does any act exercising the denomination over the goods showing an equivocal intention to buy. Example, if he pledges the good to the third party, failure or inability, something like that will happen. It will affect it accordingly. Similar example you can just go through these examples by your own. You will be able to understand. I hope you have understood that what is sale or return basis. Okay, so these examples are there. So next is the risk prima facie passes with the property. So this is we have studied till now that why it is important to transfer the property or the time of the transfer of property, because the risk also transfers along with it. So there are certain in under section 26 it is given, unless and otherwise agreed, the goods remain at the seller's risk until the property therein is a transfer to the buyer. But when the property therein is transferred to the buyer, the goods are at the buyer's risk, whether delivery has been done or not, provided that where the delivery has been delayed through the fault of the either buyer or the seller, the goods are at the risk of the party in fault as regards any loss which might not have occurred, but but for such fault, provided also that nothing in this section shall affect the duties and liabilities of either seller or buyer as a bailee of the goods. Now, who is a bailee? Bailee is a person who actually carries the goods or who is holding the goods on the behalf of the bailer. So their duty will be as a bailee, and it is the duty of the bailee to take all the reasonable care of the goods on the behalf of the bailer. Okay. So let us analyze this, because there are certain things which are, to be analyzed over here. So let us just go for analysis. What is the general rule? General rule is unless and otherwise agreed, the goods remain at the seller's risk until the property therein is transferred to the buyer. Okay, but when the property therein is transferred to the buyer, the goods are at the buyer's risk whether the delivery has been done or not. So transfer of property is most important, not the delivery. So may it be delivered or not, but when the transfer of property has happened, then the seller will be holding the goods on the behalf of the buyer, and the buyer will be responsible for taking all the reasonable care of the goods on the behalf of the seller. Okay, so am I audible?
Yes, sir. No,
Yes,
you
sir.
are.
Fine. And can you see the presentation, or you can see only the
No, sir. We can
PPT?
see the presentation.
Is PPT in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, however, Section 26 also lays down an exception to the rule that risk follows ownership. So, it provides that where the delay of the goods has been delayed through the fault of either buyer or seller, the goods are at the risk of the party in fault. As a result, any loss which might not have occurred but because of such fault. Because what does it means that it means that if there has been a delay in the delivery, okay, so what will happen? The delay in the delivery may cause a loss, because if delay is there in the delivery, so there is a delay from either from the seller side who has actually delayed the goods in order to deliver to the buyer, or it's the buyer who has not come for the delivery. So whosoever fault it will be, the the things will be, at the risk of that person who is actually making a fault, even if the ownership has been transferred, but delay has been there for the delivery. So who is responsible for such delay? Who will be responsible for the damages? A person who has actually delayed it, okay, will be responsible. Thus, in the ordinary circumstances, risk is borne by the buyer only when the property in the goods passes over to him. However, the parties may, by a special agreement, stipulate that the risk will pass sometime after or before the property. So it is implied that the risk will follow the transfer of property. But this implied thing can supersede by making any express or a special agreement in this behalf regarding the risk. Okay. Further, the risk prima facie passes with ownership. I have already told you. Okay, so the owner of the goods must bear the loss or the damage of the goods unless and otherwise it is agreed to. Under Section 26 of the Sale of Goods Act, unless otherwise agreed, the goods remain at the seller's risk until the property therein passes to the buyer. After that event, they are at the buyer's risk whether delivery has been made or not. Even if the buyer is having the possession of the goods which has been sold by him to the seller, still because buyer has not come for taking the delivery, it will be at the risk of the buyer. Okay. So example, A bids for a unique painting at the sale by the auction. After the bid, when the auctioneer struck his hammer to signify the acceptance of the bid, he hit the antique which gets damaged. So loss will have to be borne by the seller because the ownership of the goods has not yet passed from the seller to the buyer. Okay. Now the aforesaid rule is, however, uh, guys, just hold for a moment. Yeah, guys. Sorry for the interruption. So what has happened now? Now the person who was actually, selling the thing, and it was a painting, or you can say it was an antique statue, which was damaged because he hit the hammer to this painting or the statue instead of hitting hammer on the table for raising. So it is at the risk of the seller, because it is still the possession has not been given, and the property and the transfer of property has not yet happened. So the aforesaid rule is, however, subject to two qualifications. If the delivery has been delayed by fault of the seller or the buyer, the goods shall be at the risk of the party who has made the default. Okay, because this loss which is going to arise is not just because of the transfer of the property, but is because of the delivery. Okay, so that's why whosoever has delayed the delivery will bear the loss. Okay, may the transfer of ownership has happened or not. So the duty and the liability of the seller and the buyer as a bailee of the goods for the other party remains unaffected even if the risk has passed generally. So everyone, those whosoever will be having the possession, will hold the property on the behalf of other as a bailee. Okay, it is just an example given. A contracted to sell 100 bales of cotton to be delivered in February. Now B took the delivery of the part of the cotton but made a default in accepting the remaining bales. Consequently, the cotton become unfit to use. The loss will have to be borne by the buyer because he has actually delayed the delivery. Okay, so it should, however, be remembered that the general rule shall not affect the duties and liabilities of either the seller or buyer as a bailee of the goods for other, even when the risk is passed. So the seller is holding the goods. So even if the goods are damaged, it is the duty of the buyer to take the goods from him. Okay. Next is transfer of title. So sale by person, not the owner. So sometimes, transfer of title happens by a person who is not the owner. So he can also sell. So subject to the provisions of this act and any other law for the time being in force, where the goods are sold by a person who is not the owner thereof and who does not sell them under the authority or with the consent of the owner, the buyer acquires no better title to the goods than the seller had. It means that the buyer will not be getting a good title if the seller is not having a good title, unless the owner of the goods is by his conduct prelucrated from denying the seller's authority to sell. Okay, so for example, a person has sold the goods, a car has been, I gave you this example of agency. This is an implied agency example I gave you, or you can say agency by estoppel, which I gave you before also, while we were studying your this contract act. That A's car was being sold by B to C, and A is not stopping B to sell his car. So now afterwards, A cannot deny that. Am I audible? So there was a problem in between. Network issues are there over here in the university today. Anyways, so still this is still coming. Let me take a pic of it. Gone. Fine. Okay, I hope you understood this. Okay, provided that with the mercantile agent, I've already told one mercantile, with the consent of the owner is in possession of the goods or document of title to the goods, any sale made by him when acting in the ordinary course of business of mercantile agent shall be valid as if he were expressly authorized by the owner of the goods to do the same. Okay, provided that the buyer acts in the good faith and has not at the time of the contract of sale noticed that the seller has no authority. Okay, so this is something which is again important. So if you just go to analysis, so you can just one maxim you will find. So maxim is namo dat quo non habet, which means a person cannot give what he is not having, or better I say, I just take it or you can say take it in a philosophical way also. A person can only transfer what he has. If you have sorrows, you will transfer sorrows. If you have happiness, you will transfer happiness. If you are equally motivated, you will inspire others to do good things. So a person cannot transfer what he is not having, or you can say a person will give only what he has. In the same way, a person who has stolen some goods, okay, and is selling the goods to some other person, okay, so that other person will also not get a good title over the goods. So namo dat quo non habet means one can give only what he has, one cannot give what he has not have. Okay, so this is a general rule. So if say if A sells some stolen goods to B, who buys them in good faith, we will get no title to that goods as a true owner and has a right to get back this goods from B. Okay, so it means that if something is stolen, so that person who has stolen it will never get a good title on it. He has to return the goods to the person who is actually the owner of the goods as such. So example P, the hirer of a vehicle under a hire purchase agreement, sells them to Q. So Q, a bona fide purchaser, does not acquire the ownership in the vehicle. At the most, he acquires the same right as that of the hirer. Okay. So here also the transfer of goods will not take place. So if this rule is enforced rigidly, then the innocent buyers may be put to loss in many cases. Therefore, to protect the interest of the innocent buyers, number of exceptions have been provided to this rule. That the mode that co non habit is also having certain exceptions. So in the following case, non-owners can convey a better title to bona fide purchaser of the goods for the value. First, if it is sold by a mercantile agent. If the goods are sold by a mercantile agent, for sure the other person will definitely get a good title. Okay, so these are the provisions which we have explained even before that too. So if there is one proviso to this, that if a buyer had acted in a good faith and has at the time of the contract of sale no notice of the fact that the seller had no authority to sell, then there can be, to some extent there can be a good title also. Okay. Next is sale by one of the joint owners. So if one of the several joint owners of the goods as a sole possession of them, he is having a sole possession of them, by permission of other co-owners, property in the goods is transferred to any other person who buys them of such joint owners in the good faith and has not at the time of contract of sale noticed that the seller has no authority to sell, so it will transfer a good title. So A, B, and C are the three brothers and joint owners of a TV and a VCR. VCR were the things which were there. Today these are CD players. So this is a very old case. So VCR is actually video cassette recorder. So there used to be cassettes of this. I think you might never have seen the cassettes. Have you ever seen the cassettes, anyone? The audio cassettes, have you ever seen lying in your house or somewhere? Your parents might have been listening this before, or you
Yes,
have
sir. The
seen
rectangle
the
one.
CD
Yeah,
one.
yes, sir.
Have you seen the cassettes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But
The
Yes.
rectangle one.
your children will
Yes,
not
sir.
be able to see the cassettes. Your children will never be seeing the cassette. They might be seeing the CDs, but the time of CDs has also gone now. This is time of pen drives, and even you can YouTubes are there where you can directly play the songs, and you need not to just have all these things. Anyways, so it's good that you have seen this cassette, so you might be knowing what is VCR and what is audio player. There used to be a Walkman when I was there, when I was doing my graduation. So there's a small walkie which in which you insert the. Likewise, you just listen the songs from your phone, and there happens to be one of the this Apple has launched one iTunes, something like that. So that was also there. Okay, so these times have gone now. So 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 what happened? A, B, and C are the three brothers, and they are joint owners of a TV and VCR. And with the consent of B and C, the VCR was kept in possession of A. So A sells the TV and the VCR to P, who buys in good faith and without notice that A had no authority to sell. P gets a good title over TV and VCR. Why? Because A is also one of the co-owner of it. And when a person is a co-owner of it, the other co-owners are having all the right to get the money or get the reimbursement amongst themselves. So that's why the buyer will get a good title. Next is sale by a person in possession under the voidable contract. For example, a buyer who has acquired a good title to the goods sold to him by a seller who has obtained the possession of the goods under the voidable contract, means that is coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, something like that. So in that case, what will happen? Provided that the contract has not yet been rescinded, okay. So still the person is having the possession of the good. The contract has not yet been rescinded or not has been avoided by the other aggrieved party. Before that, if he sells it off, then the other person will get the good position because he doesn't knows about it, because the transfer of property has already happened. The document of transfer is there with him, but the other person is not yet rescinded. So the property still is with the buyer who has purchased it from the previous seller who has transferred the property in undue influence or any of these. Okay. Next is sale by one who has already sold the goods but continues in the possession thereof. So a person is actually called an unpaid seller, or you can say a seller who is already having the possession of the goods, who has actually once he has sold the goods, but the buyer has never turned up in order to take the goods. So if a person has sold the goods but continues to be to have the possession of them or the documents of the title to them, he may sell them to the third person. And if such third person obtains a delivery of the goods in the good faith and without notice of the previous sale, because once previous sale has done, then the transfer of property should have happened at that time itself. So previous sale has happened and the person has actually transferred the property before also. Now the things which are once sold should not be sold again, but the person might not have come, so he is selling it to some other person in the ordinary course of business. So and the buyer is not having the notice of the previous sale, he would have a good title to them, although the property in the goods had passed to the first buyer earlier. So a pledge or any other disposition of the goods or the documents or the title of the seller in such a case will also be equally valid. For example, ICL matches, actually IPL होना चाहिए था. During IPL matches, P buys a TV set from R. So R agrees to deliver the same to P after some days. In meanwhile, R sells the same to S at the higher price, who buys it in good faith and without knowledge about the previous sale. So S gets a good title. Now, what will happen? That R will file a suit against P that why you have sold my TV to someone else, because I have already told you that I will take it from you afterwards. So that can happen, but S will get a good title. He will not be a party to such type of thing. Next is a sale by a buyer obtaining a position before the property in the goods was vested in him. So a person who is a buyer, he has actually not obtained the position, but he has actually bought the goods, but still the position is still with the seller. In that case, what will happen? If he sells the good, then he will also get the other purchaser will get a good titles, where the buyer with the consent of the seller obtains the possession of the goods before the property in them has passed to him. He may sell and pledge the goods before the property in them has passed to him. So he may sell and pledge or otherwise dispose of the goods to the third person. And if such person obtains the delivery of the goods in the good faith and without the notice of the lien or other right of the original seller in respect of the goods, he will get a good title. So most important thing over here in all these cases is that the purchaser who is purchasing the goods, he must get the things in the good faith and without having the knowledge that the other person has actually sold it off to someone else, or other person is not having an authority to sell it off. Okay, but still he has sold it, so he will get a good title besides every other thing. Next is the effect of the stopple. Effect of the stopple I have already told you. Okay, while I have just given you the example of the agency, that A has sold his car to B. A has sold B's car to C. in front of him. So afterwards, after the sale has made, B cannot deny the fact that A was not his agent. So A has done it in front of him. So accordingly, the estoppel will be applicable. Okay. Next is a sale by a unpaid seller, where the unpaid seller who has exercised his right of the lien or the stoppage in transit resells the goods because he has not been paid. The buyer acquires a good title to the goods as against the original buyer. Okay, because the person has not been paid for the goods he has sold. Though the transfer of property happens and there was a deferred payment, but still, if he can get the possession of the property which he has sold, then the new buyer will get a better title over him. Next is sale under the provisions of the act. So sale by official receiver or liquidator in case of company, the purchaser will get a good title. So purchaser of goods from the finder of lost goods under the Indian contract will get a good title. Sale by a pawnee, okay, can convey a good title to the buyer because he has sold the goods because the pawner has not paid the money to him. So this is all about your you can say the delivery of the goods and the passing of the property. So any question regarding this, you may please ask. Anyone, any question you would like to ask, please tell me. Fine, then let me take the attendance. Okay. So one more thing, you can at the end of the day, I think sure attendance also. You can just see your attendance and the marks. Sure is not here. Okay. Anyways.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
You're there. Where are you here? Rohan Pingle. Sure, where are you? Can't see you. Up above over here. Sorry?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Rohan Pingle is saying Rohan Pingle? Sorry, have you logged Rohan Pingle's account?
No, sir. I'm logged in with my own account. Rohan Pingle is also unmuted.
Anyways. So let me take the attendance because your name is not appearing, Shaurya. Chandresh Kumar Sigar, Drishti Verma, Harshit Kumawat,
Present, sir.
Karthik Rajput, Karthikeyan Sharma, Khushi Shekhawat,
Yes, sir.
Present, sir.
Patang Sharma, Mukul
Present, sir.
Chaudhary, Parth Narendra Bhai, Prakash
Present, sir.
Chaudhary, Puneet
Present,
Yadav,
sir.
Pushpendra Pal Singh,
Present, sir.
Javaria, Rakesh Raika, Ravi
Present,
Raman,
sir.
Mohan Modi, Rohan
Present,
Pingle,
sir.
Sandeep Singh
Yes,
Bhati,
sir.
Soumya Deepa Saha, Tarush
Present,
Pujara,
sir.
Kirti Bhai Fultaria. Sorry,
Yes,
your name
sir.
is not there.
Sir, should I log in again?
While I will be downloading the attendance, it will not show your name.
Should I log in again, sir?
No need now. It's okay because we'll put it off. But the thing is that please see whether you appear over here or not.
Okay, sir.
Anyways, guys, so have a nice day for the rest of the day. Enjoy. Bye. Take care.
Bye, sir.
And stay
Bye-bye.
safe. Yeah.